Welcome to this lesson, Introduction to Solidity Programming and Blockchain Basics and Introduction, presented by Coding Bootcamps. In this lesson, we're going to cover an introduction to Solidity and the Remix development environment. We have covered this information and we have covered the prerequisites. So a recap. So in our previous lessons, we had a basic introduction to blockchain. So we looked at things like hashing, we looked at mining, we looked at how value is transferred. In our previous lesson, we had an introduction to Ethereum, whereas Ethereum is an operating network. In this lesson, we're going to look at how we write those distributed applications to run on the Ethereum network. And one of the tools, one of the great tools of Ethereum is the Remix development environment. So Remix it's an impressive advanced tool for Ethereum development and Solidity programming. Remix requires no installation. It is browser-based. And it will use a simulated JavaScript environment that simulates an Ethereum node or an Ethereum blockchain. Remix has a rich editor that includes all of the tools you would come to expect in a modern integrated development environment. Syntax highlighting, menu-driven, compilers, deployments, all visual, and also visual debugging. The Remix development environment, again, is browser-based, and to load it, you point your browser address here at remix.ethereum.org. Remix has three major views: an editor, the output of the console, and an explorer view. So we take a look here. We can see what will be the editor. You can choose either for an environment, you can choose either Solidity or Viper. This will be the editor or the main view. Then we'll have the terminal view with a console here. The module view, which gives us all of our tools for the various modules, and then an icon view or menu up here. This is the Remix module or the File Explorer modules. So we click here and we can explore our files. And our files are typically Solidity files. We can see here .sol, and we can see some tools such as new. We can interact with GitHub. We can copy. We can open an existing. And we can see here the contract editor over here on the right with its syntax highlighting. And we have the compiler and deploy modules. So the compiler is right here, and it gives us the ability to select different compilers, obviously language Solidity. And here is our button here to actually run the compile. And then we would select what contract we were working with, because one Solidity file can have more than one contract. So it's important that we keep track of, or that we select the contract that we are indeed looking to run. And then we have our deployment module here. And our deployment module actually has our environment for the simulated Ethereum network. In this case, it's called the JavaScript VM network. And it also comes with Ethereum accounts. So these are actually addresses. These are long numbers, so that it's hard to tell. It's hard to see the full length of it. And it also has Ether. We introduced Ether a little earlier. Each one of these accounts comes with 100 Ether, or 100 Way, I should say. And also here we have the contract that's been selected, and we can actually execute here the deployed contract. So when we click the deploy button, we deploy a contract, and then we can interact with the features and functionality of that contract. So we have inputs and we have outputs. So here, when we're running contracts, we have certain inputs, and our inputs will usually have some kind of a field and to input the data, and then a button to actually send that data to Solidity or to Remix for processing. And anytime information is output, Remix and Ethereum Solidity, these type of applications won't output to the screen. They write to the blockchain. And when we're working in Remix, we'll see the same thing. We'll see data written to the log or to the console. And we can write data to the console in many, many different ways, and sometimes in an enhanced or verbose way. You can see here some output written here. It's a great day, and we can see the value here. It's a great day written down here. And then we have the debugger, or the debug module. So the debugger allows us to set breakpoints. You can see there's a breakpoint set here. And then there is a debug button in the console. When the transaction is mined, you will see a button for debugging, and we can actually step through the lines and get some values here so we can get a better understanding if there is an issue, if we have a flaw in our logic, or if we're not handling a value correctly. So for this exercise, what we are going to do is open up Remix. So we're going to go into our browsers and go to remix.ethereum.org. We're going to select Solidity, and then we are going to look for the File Explorer modules, and we are going to create a new Solidity contract called mynewcontract1.sol. You can leave it as my new contract as well. In my example, it'll say my new contract 1. Set that as the file name and click OK. And actually, you can paste code from your learning materials into the contract, and it will look something just like we see here. Now, notice the pragma, the Solidity pragma right here. This has to be consistent with the compiler itself. So our pragma was set at, and there are different settings here. So 5.1, so 5.1 or greater, that's what this means. Compiler version 5.1. And notice here, we are selecting 5.1 or greater as our compiler version. So your pragma and your compiler have to be consistent, or you'll just get an error and you'll have to go and address that. We'll click our compiler module, and you'll see here the compile indicator that a change has been made to your code and you must recompile. So that's kind of a recompile indicator. We click the compile button, and then we're able to get the results on that compile action. When we're ready to deploy, we'll deploy the contract. So we'll go to the deploy module. We'll click the deploy button, and we can interact with our contract. So we'll from this drop down here, we'll make sure that we are working with the correct deployed contract. You can see where the contract is deployed to. This is exactly the same thing that happens on the Ethereum network. And then we're able to interact with our contract and see the output. And here's where I was talking about being able to click on the debug button and work with the debugger. So this is the summary. Let's take a quick look at our exercise. So we'll bring up Ethereum, and I already have it here, but what we would do is we go to our File Explorer, and we make sure we navigate to remix@ethereum.org. Click the New button, and enter the name of our contract, and click OK. And then we would enter that information, and you can paste the code in here. As you can see, there are various functions. We have the set, the get, working with some int. So working with a function here that looks like it takes an integer and it adds 10 to it and then returns that new value. So you can see here these functions actually take a value and return a value. So take a look. We see the declaration. We see the pragma here. We must be at 5.1 or higher of the compiler. So let's click on the compile module, and we can see that we are at 5.1. So this should compile. Let's click the compile button. Notice we're compiling mycontract.sol. You can see it. That this is the file name, and we can see the contract. And again, an SOL file could have more than one contract. So let's run this, get some feedback here from the compiler. Okay, that compiled, and we see the contract is here, and we're fine because we only have one contract in this file. Now let's deploy it. So this is our deployment module. And we see here we're in the JVM environment. So JVM VM. So this is a simulated node. We could have a local node here, a Web3 provider like Ganache, where we can connect to. We obviously need to pass in that information. But in our case, we're gonna, the JavaScript VM is fine. You see, we get all of these Ethereum accounts, all with 100 Ether. That is the Ethereum, as everybody knows, the Ethereum token. So let's click the deploy button, and we'll deploy out to our Java VMs. To this node, and notice our 100 Ether went down a little bit. It decreased ever so slightly because we're using our Ether to make payments to the network, a very little bit, a tiny bit. That's called gas. And here's our debug button if we need it. So our transaction's been mined, and we can take a quick look at this information. There's not a lot here. It was mined automatically. It wasn't mined with a miner or anything. Okay, let's clear that. So now we can drop down here and see the various functionality that corresponds back to these buttons. So if I wanted to use this hint, I could put maybe 4 in there and click the button. And we could see here that that went fine and that transaction was mined. If we wanted to see more information, we can click on this caret or this down arrow, and we can see that we have actually set, using hexadecimal, this int I. And now I can return int I. I just want to clear this by clicking my int I. And we can see, oh, okay, it's 4. And if I scroll down here, we can see in here that it's actually 4. So this data here from the output in the console here, or in the transaction, was actually sent back here. And we can also we can set a value. We could say good day. We do have to make sure that we pass in the quotes or the double quotes. We can set that. And we didn't see it, but this transaction was mined. We have to be careful we keep this closed. We can do the get. We can look where get is here and get, and we can return. And return good day. And again, we can go in here, and we can see good day was returned. The my value is right here as part of the set. We can return that, and we don't have anything set in there right now. And there are other buttons on here we could take a look at. We could return some strings, and we can click on value. We're returning good day right here. So the value is right here. So it is so string 1. We haven't run my get yet, so we'd have to run my get. And then we can go through here and take a look at these transactions and try to get a better understanding of what they do. So try to paste these in, and again, take a look at what they do. And you can also go up to these buttons here, and you can expand it. Oh, well, my value here, we've got to add that. That's part of the problem, is we need to add it like this. So good day, everyone. Transact, and my value. So we can see everyone is coming here now. And with the hint, we just see 1 here. So string 1, let's see where string 1 is. String 1 is part of my get. And again, again, we could click the debug button. Oh, and there's the everyone as well. So you can see here that as long as all of these fields are filled out, all of these data values will come back. So paste this code in and go through those steps, and this will be our exercise. Also, please do, after you review the contract here, please take a look at this assessment and look at your learning materials for the answers. And also these are the other resources. So look at your learning materials for these additional resources. And also please consult your resources for the additional training. And next we are going to do the Solidity, a little more advanced Solidity contract.